Hello and welcome to The Pursuit. My name is Josue. I am joined by my buddy Michael and my sister Abby. We are here talking season 3 about issues with dating in your late 20s. And today's episode is long distance relationships. When people say long distance, what do you think they actually mean?
I think they mean when the person that you're dating is not necessarily living in the same city that you're in or a couple hours away.
That's fair. Like, what do you think long distance actually is?
Depends on the person.
That's true.
I'm not saying the
Could
person. I'm
be-
saying what do you think it is?
Yeah, what does it mean to you?
Oh,
Yeah, because so Canada girl, she's too far, right? But she's closer than my girl. So what?
you gotta stop saying because I only really know like 2 girls in Canada, and if they listen to this,
Find out about
they're
each
gonna
other.
think
It's only two.
That's so awful.
they're gonna think something. I mean, it could, for me, like I typically not huge on long distance, so it would typically have to be like something like out of state, maybe.
Okay,
Yeah.
so like Madison would be.
But then states in Wisconsin in America are so big,
That's true.
so
Yeah.
if I date
even
somebody,
in Texas,
yeah, like that would
You
be
could be
like half
15
across the
hours
country
away.
for
Yeah.
for like us.
most people.
Because like
So
for,
I guess okay. So if it had to be like a time thing, it'd probably be like, no, probably like an hour and a half,
Okay,
hour and a half
okay,
drive.
yeah. For me, I think it would be more than 30 minutes.
Dang, you don't like driving
Y'all
at
know
all.
I don't like to
She
drive
does not
like
like to drive.
that.
Shoot, man, I
So-
drive to church like 45 minutes away every day.
I
Every
know
Saturday.
that's max. I mean, last week I did go to Sheboygan and I drove. So you know,
Sheboygan's kind of far.
it's
from
an
here.
hour, but
It's
that's a
about an hour.
lot for me. So
Oh.
anything more than like 30 minutes that gets in the way of like spending time is long distance.
I mean, I think for me, I kind of, I didn't put a time on it, but the criteria I put was any distance you can't see them regularly 2 or 3 times a week without it being a hassle.
That's true.
So whatever that looks like, I think that's what it is. For example, anything in southeastern Wisconsin. So for example, you now live in Greenfield.
Why do you have to see your girlfriend 2-3 times a week?
Yeah, would
Wow, that sounds.
Would you?
Because I enjoy her company.
If
I don't
she,
know.
If she
that
lived
seems.
here, would you guys
This
hang
is
out every day?
savage. No,
I'd see her 2 or 3 times a week.
Okay,
100%.
that makes sense.
Or every day. It depends.
I
how
mean, you
feel.
guys have been dating
Every
for a
day.
minute now, so
Yeah.
it's more serious.
Yeah, 100%.
we could talk.
But
on
like
the phone.
for example, anything in southeastern Wisconsin would be cool. So here to Waukesha is about 20 minutes, but like Racine, that's like a 40 minutes. I think that's still doable,
It's doable.
at least for me. But like for example,
it's nothing.
anything like Chicago, that's 90 minutes. That's long distance for me.
That's what I was saying. That's long
That's
distance.
that's way long distance.
For you, I feel like long distance would have to be like
I'm saying for me, Chicago's long distance.
like the moon or something. 'cause
The
you
ha ha ha, very
dated,
funny
like
and
different
true.
continents. Like,
I was talking to Ari last night, and she made a good point that anything long distance is when the distance gets in the way of, like, let's say if you need emotional support in the
Yeah.
moment, here and now, and time becomes a factor as to whether you can hang out.
That's a really
It's
good
a barrier. I'm like, yeah, that's a really good point.
Hell yeah.
Because, like, if I want you now, but it takes you an hour to get here, that's long distance. That's an hour
Yeah.
too long.
yeah,
No, that's fair.
So-
What about Madison? Would Madison be too long for you here in Wisconsin?
no, that's not long distance.
It's over an hour. For me, that's kind of like a maybe.
No, I mean it just in our time, like distances have become like so much like shorter. Like the world isn't so like huge to us anymore.
Well, that's because of technology, I think.
Well, that
Yeah.
and it was just like cars and stuff. Like maybe 50 years ago, Madison's pretty long distance, probably.
Oh,
you know.
100%. Yeah,
If you
okay.
got a car,
I
most
see what
likely
you're
you got to
You
take
got
the
a
bus.
horse and buggy.
Okay, not that old, but even maybe back then too.
And I think there's also something that I thought of was that there's levels to long distance
Yeah.
where like you can have Chicago long distance, you can have Texas from Wisconsin long distance,
And then a
and
whole
you
other
can have
country.
Holland long distance.
Yeah.
And
Mexico
that's an
long distance.
That's an entirely different ball game because like if you're in different time zones, that completely throws off the balance. That throws off your lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
You have to change around for this girl, and that's just and that's just completely different. So
Yeah.
I don't know. It's going to be an interesting discussion. One thing I thought of was that, especially when it comes to dating and Adventism, is that it's now the new reality. it is no longer an option. Now, Michael,
Mm.
in the prior episode, you mentioned that you're saying that you have more options, but I would say that if you're single at this point
I
in
said more
time,
options than what?
like you're saying that there is an option now, or regardless, my point is that I feel like it's the new reality where if you can't find anyone nearby, you are now officially pushed to long distance, and that's more common now
Yeah.
than way before. And I feel like more people have to get used to that, and
This is
that's not,
specifically for
and that's
Adventists.
not. Well,
For
yeah,
everyone.
Well, I would say
for a
specifically
lot
for
of people,
Adventists, though, more
Especially
so.
for Adventists, for such a small
especially
pool.
for Adventists for sure.
I mean, if you're like non-Adventists or
There's people everywhere.
not, yeah, like and you're
Right.
living in the city, Milwaukee, like there's plenty of people, man.
Right.
But for us,
But
it's like 1, 2. See, I'm not even joking. Like you can count on like maybe 2 hands.
but the thing
Yeah.
is that the same applies to somebody who goes to Andrews but doesn't see somebody they like. It's completely different. So
It's
I guess
big.
my thing is, do you guys agree that there's no other option, or that there's or that it's become the new normal, or what are your thoughts on it?
I think it's more accepted, and personally, I've gotten more used to the fact that it will probably be my reality, considering my options here in Wisconsin are so low. So yeah, I think it's just you got to get comfortable with the idea and know that, like, there's so many ways to make it easier. It's not like before,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just working with who you got.
Yeah, and I kind of noticed that like how this kind of affects, and this is a little side note, but I go to a church plant, and we're the only Adventist church in the whole county. So it's
Yeah.
it's like a couple 100,000 people in this county.
Yeah,
We're the only Adventist church there.
and they're all guys, right? In your church, it was just
Outside
your
of my
sister.
sister, pretty much, yeah. But we've been steadily growing since we've been doing this podcast. We've added more people. Some people have gone, but we've added more people. But I was telling my dad, he's like the main leader of the church plant,
Yeah.
and I'm constantly like trying to encourage us to get out into the community. Like, let's go knock on doors, let's do stuff like that, which is what you should be doing anyway. But I feel like a lot of like older Adventists, when it comes to like growing the church and stuff, they typically just wait for people to come in through the door, and they have like a family, and then they have like kids or whatever. And that probably was like working back in the day, but today,
It's no longer the
there's
case.
there's not a lot of, even if there was a lot of Adventists, in the area, a lot of them, like I said, have, like I've said in other episodes, like it's pretty hard to get families or,
Yeah.
settle down and stuff like that, just the way the world is today and the economy and stuff. So like it affects everything.
It's true.
Like how the dating world is, especially if it's long distance.
What's it
That's
like
an
for you
option.
since you're long distance?
I don't know how to describe it. It's just a normal for me. I don't know any different.
That's true. Your other
So,
girlfriend was long distance
My
too.
other girlfriend was long distance too. So, I mean, it has its benefits and it has its drawbacks, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Would I choose to have in person? 100%. I think my setup is not as bad, where some people don't see each other for a whole year or don't see each other for 6 months or 3
Yeah.
months or something like that. Whereas if I wanted her here tomorrow, it's not really an issue. And then a lot of people don't really have that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's more of a like, because she's here for a while and then she's gone for a while, so she splits her time, so it's not as hard as it could be, which I think helps out a whole lot.
Okay.
But I think, like, for example, for other people who don't, who what do you call it, who don't have an EDRE like I do, and meet somebody, let's say at a conference, like for example you and I went to AYP. I don't think a lot of those people, I don't think a lot of those young adults realize that, oh, if I meet somebody, this is going to change my life in more ways than one, and not just because I found somebody who's cute, and not
Yeah.
just because I found somebody who I like and who likes me or something like that. I mean, if you remember, like, we used to go to Andrews quite often, and
times.
you,
It was more your thing than mine, to
yeah,
be
well,
honest.
Yeah. Well, and then you eventually got sick of it because you didn't want to do a trip even.
You wanted
Just
to
like
do
going.
the whole trip on the same day.
Whereas you're like, if I don't go the day before, I'm not into that. I think a lot of people are with you on that and aren't willing to do that.
Because it was Condra's is 6 hours away. No, it's
It's
3.
like 4, but
Yeah.
then the
No,
change,
it's
the
3.5.
time change.
It's 3.5. So if you're doing it the whole day, you're in the car for like 7 hours, and then you're in Andrews for like 2.
Okay, that's an exaggeration.
Come on.
No, it's an exaggeration. You're there from 9 to 6. Period.
No.
9 to 6.
Yeah, and then
I
we
was
get
wondering, I
home.
would
Whatever.
know.
We get home super late. It wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't really my thing. But yeah.
But like I was saying, I don't think people really have thought it through that, like, if you met somebody at AYP, you were going to have to do long distance anyway. Because presumably, if they lived close to you, you would know them anyway. And you would have already, like, discarded them or not considered them as an option or something like that.
But
I
think
mean,
that-
So-
I disagree. Because the people at AYP, they were our age. There was more
late 20s.
late 20s.
Yeah.
And if their need is like ours to find somebody, I think they have thought about it. Now, have they thought
You
it
think
to
so?
the full extent? Yeah, because like we're not the only people in the world that think about these things. They're in their late 20s too. Like they're having these conversations, so it's like I don't think it's fair to say that they haven't thought about it. All the logistics, probably not, right? Because at the end of the day, if you are thinking about all the logistics from beginning to the end, I would call that anxiety.
I think about it. If
I
you're
think
doing
that-
long
I
distance,
think
Because
it's just planning.
I would think about like the fact that it's long distance that it'll change my life. But if I think about every little aspect, in why I see it is it could be a barrier, at least for me, to start doing it because going 100 steps ahead, that's usually what you call anxiety. But that's just me.
well, I just, when you're an older age, you don't want to waste people's time because, we're older. And then it's a big investment when you're doing long distance. So I feel like you kind of have to like think ahead. And for me, I know if I'm going to date somebody long distance, like I'm already like trying to do this, like I'm being real intentional about this. Like I'm
Yeah.
not just here just to, because you're cool and I just want to do something casual. Like, no, this is
I'm
gonna be a
not saying
serious
you're
thing.
not thinking
No, I'm
some
not saying that. I'm
things,
just
but,
saying this is how
like,
I think about it.
If you have a
for
detailed, like a
her-
full business plan where you have steps 1, 2, 3, and then you have bullet points A through Z, like to me, it's just
I mean,
it can
and-
I
become
think it's awfully
overwhelming.
convenient for you as a woman to say that because the guy's usually the one supposed to set the pace. So you usually follow his lead. You usually just kind of sit into his plan. So
But-
you don't have that burden.
But in a long
of
distance
usually
relationship,
having
it
the
takes
plan.
2 people.
Oh, I understand
It takes
that.
2 people to come to that. Especially the older you get, you both have lives, you both have schedules. You
Right.
need to take each other into consideration. So it's not just like as a woman, I'm not going to be sitting back and being like, just expecting him to plan everything out. That's That's wrong. That's unfair. And so
But
I would-
but you would be the one to be like, honey, what are we gonna do? Instead of, honey, this is what we're gonna do. You see?
I
You see
would
the
probably
difference?
do it less often, right?
Right.
Because yeah, but like
That's
it's
my
not like
point.
he would be coming to Wisconsin all the time.
Presumably.
Yeah, and if he does, that's cool too.
But let's not get it wrong. There are benefits to this, and there's also drawbacks. Here, let's kind of start with the benefits, though, and I guess I would know more about this than y'all. One of the benefits that I see to long distance to me is that you can kind of grow without pressure. So I'll give you an example. For me, I've been on a weight loss journey. I've lost a lot of weight, just pretty much starving myself, but I don't really mind it. I mean, it works for me. I can, go to the gym or miss a couple days and I don't have her like you look a little like you didn't go to the gym this week. What's going on? Or something like that. So you can kind of go through your ups and your downs kind of solo still. And you can kind of do your growth journey. And I kind of like that where you can still
like
kind of go on your
somebody
own.
telling you get your butt up and go to the
Not
gym.
really. No, I don't.
Don't
I don't
I think,
like
I
that.
think
No
people need that
accountability.
sometimes. I be telling you to go to the gym sometimes.
Or
Everybody else ain't going, run.
accountable to yourself, right?
Yeah.
Because if you want to be intrinsically motivated, apparently is that a crime? I don't think so.
No, you need both.
didn't think
you
so.
need both to succeed.
why-
Some do, 100%.
I think everybody does.
I think everybody does
Everybody
too.
does at least sometimes,
I'll give you another benefit of long distance. It can be cheaper. I don't have to do more dates, which are expensive nowadays, which we'll talk about in another episode.
Yeah.
So it can be kind of cheaper in that sense. And you also, it's your life is a little bit more structured in the sense that, okay, she's coming X and Y day. She'll be here for, Z amount of time. And then we'll kind of go from there. So it kind of forces you to be structured and plan ahead and have your life a little bit more together. Now, Michael, you're going to be like, I'm stupid,
I don't know. I'd
but
be
I see
curious
that
to see
as a
what
huge
that.
benefit.
Well, you said it'd be a little cheaper. I don't know because, like, I mean, yeah, you're probably not going to get to go out as much. But if she comes here,
Yeah.
you're taking care
I'll
of her.
give you
Like,
an example. Michael,
first of all, she has
I
to fly
spend more
here.
money when she's here than when she's not. I know that like
I know,
firsthand.
I know. I'm just saying, like, I would have to see like what the numbers are for people who are like just dating someone locally versus dating someone long distance. Like, how much
Okay,
money
fair,
are they spending
fair.
in total?
To
Because
see if
like,
it equals out the same.
because yeah, like if she's
She's here for a month. You're spending a big chunk in
yeah,
1 month.
Right.
She's probably staying by your place or whatever. You're feeding her, and then
Yep.
shoot, man, she's using the light and the water bill.
Yeah.
All of the
yeah.
above.
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I don't know.
I think it's
maybe it evens out. It's just you don't have to spend it all every month.
I don't think it evens out. I think it's way more expensive. I think
sure?
it's actually way more expensive to be long distance, and that goes to the drawbacks now. Well, actually, one
You
last
said
benefit
it'd be way more expensive
for long distance, and it's not even close.
Oh well, yeah.
But one more benefit, and I don't know what, and I don't know. I guess what you guys think about it. Do you think that distance makes the heart grow fonder? Do you think
Yes.
that that's real or not?
Yes, of course.
I think so too.
Scientifically.
However, long distance relationships nowadays, you're never really that far anyway, because you're always out of text.
A call
You're
away.
at like a call
but
away.
that stuff-
So then you're already like really close.
Texting that can only go
No,
so
I'm not
far.
saying texting. I'm talking about video calls.
Man, nobody don't want just video, man. You gotta have that touch, man. You gotta have like skin to skin contact.
I know.
Like that video
You
is
would
just
know.
like
All puns
it's just like
intended.
a tease, Like eventually you're just gonna want more,
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
why. That's
No,
why
I agree.
honestly, and that's why the statistics show that most long distance, not most, but like long distance relationships, the success rate isn't as high as like local.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
It doesn't.
Yeah,
I
it
don't know.
is
I'd have to
because
look
it's
into
just a lot of
Okay.
it's a bigger investment, and there's just a lot of stuff that you
You need to have
typically
stronger
want that
communication.
you don't get right away.
Yeah, I
and
guess.
so it's just it makes it hard, like But I feel like maybe, and I'd have to see the statistics on that. Like if it is successful, like in terms, I guess we have to measure what success is, right?
Yeah, that's what I was going to
You
say,
know,
but
like
that's
what
a
is
whole different
success? Like
topic.
is it marriage?
But yeah, of course.
But if you're able to get through that, like you've already been able to get through like
huge-
something that is,
Mm-hmm.
hard
Yeah,
and
together.
you'll be able to go through it. Like I think that bond make you tighter.
Yeah.
I think that's true.
I think a benefit for me personally, if I get into a long distance relationship, which would probably be likely, would be getting to know the person for who they are, like their thoughts, their personality, their character, in a well measured pace. Because I think distance makes a barrier for less like love bomby behavior, in the sense of like a lot of the times with proximity, we want to jump the different stages of dating, or we get too close too quickly, and sometimes we don't take it at a natural pace, so it can be like too much intensity without being natural. So I think that distance can provide that barrier and kind of structure of getting to know somebody in a good pace that you set together. For who they are, their personality, granted, you do need to meet up. But I think that long distance can, you can know who the person is through the phone calls, through the FaceTime. You don't have that skin to skin, like you're saying, Michael, to distract you, because it can distract you. Let's be real. We are humans, and,
Yeah,
So.
but I don't know, man. Like, because people can hide who they truly are.
That's
like
true.
you gotta see people like
That's true,
face
but
to face.
that's why I think
Get a
you
vibe.
need it. You need time,
Because
right?
people be catfishing out here. Like, man, like,
That's true.
they could be a completely different person.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, that can be a
It's a
drawback as well.
facade. I gotta see you.
But I guess for me, I assume the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
So
Fair enough. There are a lot of drawbacks, though.
I was real quick. I once read a story about a guy, and this is like really sad. Like he met a woman online, like I think he was from America, and he was like, this girl he was talking to was in England. And they were
Yeah.
like, older adults, maybe like they're in both 30s. And he had talked to her for weeks, and then they had finally agreed for him to come and see her. And so he flew over there in
Uh-huh.
the airport. And then when he got there, he texted the girl. He's like, "Hey, I'm here. Like, let's hang
Let's
out or
hang
do
out.
whatever." And she was like, "Oh, you actually came? I'm
Oh
actually." She's like,
no,
"I'm actually married and have kids."
Oh no.
that's awful.
And he
That's awful.
he was so heartbroken. He stayed in the airport for days, just sitting in the same
Wow.
spot, and they had to like take the guy to the hospital.
That's
Like
sad.
yeah, it made the news. You could look up the story. That's obviously an extreme. I'm not saying a lot
Yeah,
of
it's
people are
very
like that.
extreme.
I think
Some
that lady,
people are
she needs to go to
awful.
jail. Like honestly, like
Yeah.
No.
that's
At least a civil suit.
terrible. Or
Get that guy back.
her husband needs to leave her. I'm like, first of all, you were cheating, and you just gonna do the man. Like
Agreed.
That.
I mean, that
Dang.
makes me think
Agreed.
of that. Did you guys see the reels on that New Yorker who went to the Middle East because she fell in love with
Oh yes,
over there?
with a side. She's like, I'm not leaving until I get a certain amount of money.
$3,000.
Oh my
And
goodness.
they're like, please leave our country. And she's like, no.
No.
It's
Yeah.
so embarrassing. It's humiliating. Who does
It's sad,
that?
but I mean, that tells you like
So funny.
the things people do, when you're in love or when they feel
I
strongly
don't know
about
about
someone.
that.
I mean,
But
I
it's
honestly
always
think
a
she was
risk.
having manic episode, but
100%.
But hey, man, like I mean, long distance definitely has its benefits, but they're definitely like huge risks you take too.
Huge risks.
yeah, it's a risk.
Agreed. And I think the biggest drawback for me now that I'm long distance, and I see it more now, is that having her here with me is an entirely different relationship than when we're long distance. It's an entirely different experience, right? Because now, like, you talk to her, then you hang up, and then you go about your day. You talk to her, you hang up, go about your day. But now she's like here all the time.
Yeah.
Now you actually have to encounter what she's like like for example, if I'm going out, it's not just me getting ready. I have to plan, hey, we're leaving at such and such time so we
Yeah.
can get there. So then she's like, oh, okay, well, then I have to switch things up so that I can shower, do what I need to do, get ready.
She has to
And
shower
that takes
too.
a lot of time,
Mm-hmm.
a lot more time than it would take me, right? But that's not something that I have to take into account or even think about.
What about the relationship anxiety? I remember where your friend from New York came.
Mm-hmm.
I remember she specifically saying this was from season 1. She specifically said that like it's nice to come home and know somebody's gonna be there.
Yeah.
Like I feel
That
like
is nice,
yeah.
yeah.
So I feel like if you're long distance, yeah, we got to set time because I remember you were you were upset one time because she wasn't ready when you guys were supposed to like talk or whatever. Like she wasn't available at
Yeah.
the time, and you were like a little frustrated.
Yeah.
But if you're expecting, or if she's here and she ain't got a car or anything, she's gonna be either with you or
Or here at the
here
house.
at the house, right?
Right.
So like when you're out working, you come home, she's gonna be there. You can talk. Like
Yeah.
I feel like there would be a lot less like anxiety.
I don't feel anxious at when we're apart though. So I don't
So
feel like
you're
there's
more
any
anxious
less.
when you're together?
Yeah, because I've never had somebody with me like that for a prolonged period of time.
But
It's
you
really
you
weird.
get what I'm saying though, because like you were like if you're expecting to like have a phone date or whatever and they can't make it, you start to be like, oh
Yeah, but I
man,
mean,
man,
we
man,
worked
man.
through that. I mean, that was earlier on
Yeah.
where she would just not say, "Oh, I'm going to be late," and
guess
just
so.
be late.
Yeah.
But I think the reality of a person is just having her here just changes everything because now it's like, okay, can I actually live with you and your quirks? Can I actually live with,
I mean,
with
yeah.
you talking like this, with you
That's what I
eating
say.
like
you need
this,
that. You need that face to
with
face
stuff like that.
But like you have
So
the
then you do
benefit
get a lot
that
of
she's
time.
here for a month.
Yeah,
She's here with you in the house. Like
and me.
exactly. I guess you
Uh,
can test all those things out.
yeah. Another drawback, you miss a lot of holidays that you don't do together. So
Yeah, I know
this
you're
is
big
the
into
first like Valentine's Day I've had in a long time. I had to celebrate, and it was long distance because she was gone. That's awkward. That was weird. I mean, it's just it feels wrong to not be able to buy flowers and actually like give them to her and smell
In
them
person.
and prepare something. Like anything that I had to get there, I either have to mail or I have to order from there to get delivery. And it's awful because there are a couple of flower shops where she lives, and this past week I had some flowers delivered to her. Was the first time that what was delivered was what I actually ordered. Usually it is always different, and it pisses me off every time.
He cold.
But I kind of just resigned to the fact now that I'm just never going to get what I want.
Were you ordering like roses
what
and
you
they send you
said.
like
No, so yeah, no,
Like tulips or
so
something?
seriously, so like I'll order some like lilacs, some like, and then something else will show up altogether. Like I'll order some like purple flowers and pink will show up. I'll order like this nice, really like red roses and some white roses will show up. I'm like, what the heck is this?
the color wore off?
I can't do
Yeah.
this.
By the time
They're
got
It's
there.
completely
colorblind.
awful.
They're color-
Now, we were lucky enough to be able to spend our birthdays together and Christmas and New Year's, but she did come like Christmas Day. So that's a little bit weird, but we still got there.
Mm-hmm.
But holidays, I know a lot of long distance couples don't get to do that.
Yeah.
And it's awful. I mean, it's not really pleasant. So it's like, oh, there's somebody I love who I can't really celebrate or enjoy it
Well,
with.
The
Yeah.
traditional
like that.
way, because it just you could still do a FaceTime like you did and
But
stuff.
it's
Still
different.
not.
It's
Yeah.
different, I'm saying, but you still celebrate it just in a
Yeah,
different
'cause eventually,
way.
like,
Agreed.
you can do FaceTime all the time, but eventually, you
You gotta meet up.
Yeah,
For
Yeah.
sure.
That's true. I think another drawback that we obviously mentioned is just money. The fact that you have to pay for flights. That's expensive. Delivering things to your partner because you want
you
them
pay
to.
for the flight.
Of course.
Oh,
He
shoot.
pays for everything.
Yeah.
He's a traditional man.
It's just it's just more expensive, and I'm not just talking flights. I'm talking like even when she comes, you usually want to greet her with a gift, right? Like you like, oh, welcome back. Usually we just want to give her something. Going on dates is you usually have to compress it, so it's very like what do you call it? It's kind of like in a crucible of sorts. So you go on more dates than you would if you were together long term.
Yeah.
So then that's much more expensive.
Well, in your instance, like I feel like because she's here for
An extended period of
like
time.
extended period of time, whereas like I think most people, if they were doing long distance, they would go probably
A week.
for a week at most. You know, then
Yeah.
you know, like this week, it's
I'm
not
gonna be
just like
spending
Yeah.
Well,
two,
because
$3,000.
yeah, when she comes, you know, you're still working. You're like,
Yeah.
doing
You're
your
doing my
daily
thing.
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
She's
that's a
doing
good-
whatever. You know, where if it's like a week, like okay, you gotta clear your whole schedule out. Like every day we're doing something. Like, we're going out. We're eating out.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
Like, we're
Yeah.
traveling somewhere. We're seeing places. Like it's gonna be.
Yeah.
You spend at least a couple G's.
Very condensed. So money is a huge drawback,
Yeah.
especially for guys who usually are the ones who have to put up all of it. But there's also the issue of out of sight, out of mind,
Yeah.
where I think a lot of couples like tend to not forget that they're together, but like if you go out, I mean, this has happened to me. I have gone out and like seen a beautiful girl and be like, I want to talk to her, and then like my mind's like, oh crap, I'm in a relationship right now because I'm not with her like a lot. So then it
You can
like
still talk to her. Just
But I feel like that's
But
more of a
it's,
guy thing.
be like, well,
Because
I'm
I
like,
know
oh,
guys
shoot, like, you
just don't
compartmentalize
follow?
more.
it could be, yeah. That's
Because
probably
like
true.
I know for me, or I know that I wouldn't forget.
Okay.
But then again, I have long distance relationships forever, right? Like friends that live across the world. We talk to each other. I still think about them.
I mean, this is the first time Aranza's been here.
Yeah, and forever.
So
Like, but it's like she got here and it wasn't like a huge adjustment. It was just like we picked up in the last text, right?
okay, yeah.
So I think that can definitely be more of a man thing, where like you forget.
Could be.
I don't know.
I don't know about that either.
I don't know.
Because
I know
like
some guys, and I might be like this too, but I don't know. Not a forgetful person.
yeah.
I think-
And also if the girl doesn't know how to put boundaries, that's a huge problem.
Or the
Because-
guy doesn't know how to put boundaries.
Right. We already talked about that. But my point is like if like you're saying that it's mostly a guy issue. So what I'm saying is if the girl doesn't know how to put boundaries and the guy's like, hey, let's like, hey, let's just text and then you're just texting this random guy. I'm like, why would you be texting
No,
this
I
random guy?
like what I
the
said
hell's
was
going
the out
on?
of sight, out of mind. I think is more of a guy issue.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I don't know.
More because I think us as women, we are more relational beings, and we do keep in touch, and we like reach out if we haven't heard from each other. We think about each other, so that's why I think it's definitely
like
more of a
if-
man
I
thing.
think
Where
if-
it's guys are always like focused on one thing, like they're but then there's also guys where like you ask them, "What are you thinking about?" and they're like, "Nothing."
I'm not like that, but you're
No,
like
no,
that.
no. I don't
A
think
lot of guys
you
So
know,
that's why I say, like, I think that's out of sight, out of thing.
I feel like
mind.
it's with our friends, it's more like that. Like, because, and I know Josue's gotten on me for this. Like, like when we first came back, when we did the long road trip to Arizona.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I needed a break. I mean, we were with each other 24/7. It was fun though. But, when I came back, I don't know. I felt like you felt like I disconnected from you a little bit. Because I remember you telling me, like, you haven't talked to me in like over a week.
Aw.
But dude, I have best friends. Like one of my best friends is Roast. He's from my unit. I was in his wedding. I haven't talked to. And I probably should talk to this dude, but like I haven't talked to
Yes,
him
you
in a
probably
long
Why is
time.
that?
I don't know.
How is that healthy?
I have
don't know.
another dude from my unit. He's in Madison. Me and him. Like I think I last went out to see him like late fall. We were just playing
but-
like stuff, but like. I
Yeah.
haven't texted him. Like we could go like a few weeks. I think I texted him like maybe a few weeks ago. But we
I
could
think
go
you have,
like months.
typical. I
That's
think you're
what
like
I'm
a
saying.
typical
Without
guy,
talking-
and like
Most
typical.
guys are
but
like
I'm
you,
saying that-
Michael.
I'm not like
but
that.
that's with the friends though. If a girl, it's the opposite.
Okay.
Like she's
More clingy,
always
maybe.
on our mind. I kid
She's
you not.
always on your
Kid you
mind.
I don't feel
Kid
that
you
way.
not. No, it's
Okay.
Maybe, but you
interesting.
got time in, maybe I don't know, but
Could
like,
be. Yeah.
but
It's
I
interesting
feel
that
like
you don't feel that way, Josh,
if you're-
because you're more of a woman in that sense. Like
Sure.
that you're more relational than the
Right.
typical guy. So like the fact that doesn't apply to your girlfriend, it's just, I guess it's weird for me.
because I know I know guys like I remember I was watching one guy and he'd been with this girl for a while and this is in school, but they were long distance too.
Yeah.
And I would sit next to him in class, smart dude. I think he's a PT right now. But yeah, like his girl was in Texas, and I think she was in PT school. I think it was Texas or Georgia, and we were sitting next to each other, and I could like see him like texting his girl, and she hadn't responded in like a few hours, and I could just see him get uncomfortable. He just like starts
Oh
like
no.
just and he had been with her for a while, but like
Yeah.
that's how it is. Like with guys, like when we
That
like a
seems-
girl or we're like feel really strongly about a girl, like she's always on our mind. Like even if we're doing something, like she's always in the back of their head.
Okay. So
Like,
in the sense,
It's
most
flip-flop.
I think most men and women are like that.
No, I don't know. I feel like guys are
More so.
more so.
More-
We just
more-
don't let it on when you're around. Like we feel like
Yeah,
just
man up.
whatever. Yeah, we man up. But when you're not there, like it's just always on the mind.
True that.
I'm telling you. At least I mean that's what I've seen.
I think a drawback for me would be not being able to like know their day-to-day mannerisms or see them how they react in the real world on
That's
the
why
day-to-day.
being in person feels like a completely different relationship.
In the sense of like, yeah, you can talk about something over the phone, but like FaceTime does help with this, but like the tone or like the reaction to things, or like let's say if you go like grocery shopping or something, like those like things that you could do in person, you don't see them in the most authentic way possible. So that could be a drawback, but I don't
Not
think
good. I think it is.
Yeah.
But it's also not as hard as it used to be. So like technology has obviously closed the gap tremendously. Like now, like I've been mentioning, you have video chats now you can like see them, see facial reactions, and you can kind of. I mean, for her and I, so while she studies, I kind of work at my desk, and then sometimes we don't really just say anything. We're just kind of there.
Do you think this could work? Long distance could work if you lived in a time where all you could do is just send letters.
If I really, really loved her, yeah. It happened all the time.
I know, but I'm just saying you're talking about
My
like the video
dearest
chat.
Ade,
Yeah, all you could do
today
is just
was a
send
very
letters,
rough day.
and it only came like once a week or something. The letters came like.
Like a whole
I mean,
think you could.
we've seen that like in
movies,
and like during war movies, but a lot of them guys were getting cheated on. But anyway,
and vice
and vice
versa.
versa.
yeah.
Well, you know how they say in Spanish, "Amor de lejos, amor de
de
pendejo."
pendejo.
So
What was that?
You
mean?
up
that
in-
means like
That means my brother's a pendejo.
That's
'Cause-
exactly what that means.
What is
So, like I said, delivery apps too. So something sweet that she does is that I unexpectedly get Uber Eats or DoorDash
Oh
orders.
yeah.
And that's really nice. Like she'll just send me like like Chipotle, which I love, or a concrete mixer,
Dairy
or something
Queen,
from Dairy
yeah.
Queen.
That's nice.
Yeah, it's just something unexpected, something super nice, and then I'll obviously surprise her with flowers and chocolates and all that other good stuff over there. So it does help. Also, like you can watch movies together, or you watch a movie while she sleeps type thing. I don't know why girls do that. It's a thing.
What,
It's
sleeps
really
while
a
they
thing.
watch a movie?
Yeah, like sleep, like fall asleep watching a movie.
Hmm.
I don't know why that happens to girls,
Really?
but
Wow.
I mean, I think like you said, without technology, I don't think there would be as many long distance relationships as there
No, it
would.
wouldn't be.
But we also wouldn't be as picky today as we
Well,
are.
that's what I'm saying. And it's well, a lot of things would be different because that lifestyle or that time period,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of things were different. So yeah, we'd honestly shoot as Myrna. You probably like 4 kids right now somewhere in DR.
Easily.
Oh Lord, thank God I'm not there.
Coconut plantation. No, I was messing.
Yeah. How is it also not as hard as it used to be? What are some other ways that it's not as hard
Other
as it
than
used
like
to
the
be?
technology
Yeah.
and
I mean, technology is obviously the biggest thing.
I think as a society we've grown in knowledge as to how to communicate.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an advantage. Even though at the same time we've grown in communication, a lot of our social skills are lower.
Which is awful.
So that's a double-edged sword.
Mm-hmm.
But it can be an advantage for the most part.
Another thing that I put down was that with flights are more mainstream, they're easier to find. So the fact that I would venture to say that the odds are that most long distance relationships are in the same country or let's say continent.
Mm-hmm.
The time zones aren't usually an issue, which means that flights aren't usually that expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you're cross world, that's a completely different ballgame.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the worst you can get here in the US in terms of like time zone would be if you're on the eastern seaboard and then you have somebody in Alaska. That's like a 4-hour difference. So, whereas it's like 9 p.m. for somebody on the East Coast, in Alaska, it would be like just 5 getting out of work type thing, which is bad, but not terrible. Where it's like 7 hours like it was for me and, Imogene at that point. But what do you think long distance relationships need to succeed and also mistakes to avoid? Now, I obviously have a list with experience, but I'm curious what you guys think.
I'd say if the most important thing is trust.
Yeah.
Yeah, trust the
Trust.
person is first of all not cheating on you,
Right.
and then
Emotionally or otherwise.
yeah, emotionally, physically, and everything like that. And you just gotta trust that the person is, going to be understanding of, because if you're long distance, like your life is, it's not going to always align. So you gotta like trust that the person's not going to be like what's the word? Not flexible enough, like they're going to be flexible enough to understand, like, especially if you're working in a field like maybe healthcare or I don't know, whatever it is where your time has to be taken away sometimes. Like it takes a lot of trust, in a lot of
Yeah.
different facets. So I would say trust for sure. And then one thing you want to avoid is, and this kind of goes with trust, is like playing this like not the blame game, but not being understanding or going too quick to assumptions. That's the word I was looking for.
Oh, yeah.
Like if the person isn't there, you're just assuming like, oh, is she seeing somebody else or is he seeing somebody else? Or
Yeah.
like, is he losing interest? Like, no, it's just, the person, I mean, those are things that could happen.
But that does happen.
Yeah, I know that
definitely
does happen. But you don't want to be quick to assumptions.
Assume.
That
is
if they're
why-
not there all the time, like, don't just think they're like losing interest. Something could happen. Like you don't know. Like there could be something happening in the family. Something could happen to him. Like he could have gotten in a car accident. Because I work with people like in the ambulance, and they're literally after almost every call calling up their boyfriend or whatever. I'm just like, yo, like is that normal? Like I don't know. Like
Wait. How do you mean? Like your coworkers
yeah, like my coworkers,
my
like
calling
after every call,
their significant other to tell them what happened?
essentially, or some other thing. I'm just like, is this normal?
That seems
Like,
excessive. I don't
yeah,
know.
so I'm just like that
Anxious.
to me, but I haven't done it before, so I'm just like maybe that's normal. I don't know, but I don't know if I could
for
do
them,
that.
right?
Yeah, so I think you need to develop good habits and like good expectations,
Yeah.
and just
Yeah.
like talk things through about like hey, like I'm not always gonna be available. Is this okay? Like
During
Yes.
work hours, at least.
yeah,
Yeah.
like during work
Or
hours.
sparsely.
But
yeah,
me, like I go to the gym, like I practice, music, I study, like I can't, like sometimes I might not even be able to talk some days, like I
Okay,
could
that's
text.
not all day.
I
All
said
day.
we could text, but not like have like a video chat like
Oh,
every
sure.
day. I don't think I'd be
I mean,
able
I think
do
you'd
that.
have to prioritize that, honestly.
Well, sometimes, if you're
You
like,
have to make it work. Like you have to
well,
see
I
it.
know, but that's why it goes back to expectations. Like, hey, like,
Okay,
can we
yeah.
do like every other day, or
You
something
have to
like
come
that?
up with a plan
Yeah, I come
together.
up with a plan, because if this person like let's say you're in medical school, you're not
Yes,
gonna have
yeah.
time like to be talking like video chat, like taking 2 hours out of your day or an hour out of your day to like video chat. Maybe if you do like half an hour, hey, we could do a half an hour, maybe.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
maybe that's reasonable.
Okay, yeah.
Because you have to
But
make time.
That
yeah,
makes
make
sense.
time, but
Yeah. I
So-
think that for a long distance relationship to succeed, you need all the same components as if a regular relationship weren't long distance, times two, in the sense that since you have the distance barrier, you need to be more communicative. You need to have the mutual intent needs to not only be had, but it needs to be communicated in ways that sometimes may not feel natural. But you have to, because that distance is there and can cause that disconnect. So there's all the same components, but the biggest one I think is communication, of communicating how you feel, communicating your boundaries, coming up together with a plan as to how we're gonna talk.
I think that's definitely the biggest one. True. Two. One I would, or I should say, a couple I would add would be a sense of commitment. Whereas, like I said, out of sight, out of mind. Like Abby said, it presumably happens more to us boys. You have to really be committed to this relationship, right? Because if you're not committed, things will happen like they happen in any relationship. But the fact that you're not close gives it another air of like another barrier, just like another thing to climb that you don't really have there. Whereas if I wanted to end things with the other day, like what are the consequences? Like my life would continue as normal. I don't have to see
Yeah.
her every day at church. I don't have to do any of that. So you really got to be committed. Another thing is you have to be patient. You presumably, when you get started in a relationship, especially if it starts long distance, like they presumably would, you're just getting to know this person.
Yeah, just like
You have to be patient to know what are their ticks, what ticks them off, and other things like that. Whereas if you are not patient and are not mindful of, the fact that they're human too, you're gonna have issues, and you have to be able to work with them through those things too. Which, yeah, I found. Another thing is flexibility.
Yeah.
You have to be flexible because you're trying to, again, do two lives at once in two different time zones at once. It's just really hard. Like, hey, I can't talk at 7. Can we talk at 9 or even 10 or something like that? A surgery ran long, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
Flexibility is something that you would need for it to succeed.
And you communicate about the type of flexibility that you have,
Right.
right? Because for some people, flexibility is anytime, anywhere. Like, I'll just do it. But like, for ejemplo, if you have like your set boundaries, like for example, for me, like if they lived in another time zone and they can only talk like at 10 o'clock at night, I would say then we would leave it for another day, because sleep hygiene is a very important thing for me. And it's something that it's part of being healthy. And then our body is a temple of the Holy Spirit. So it's like flexibility, working with what each person has and their boundaries.
True. Another one I would say, this is more towards guys, obviously, but is money. You need money.
Girls spends money
in
too.
Okay.
Because like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, okay, a lot of the times guys pay the dates and stuff, but we buy the outfits, we get our hair done, we do our nails, we do all these things that take time, that take money,
Guys don't?
that take effort.
guys do that too. Trust me.
You do your nails, Michael.
No, but we want
When
to
was
have
the
a
last
nice.
time you got a haircut?
I ain't talking
Okay.
about my haircut,
Stop
but
putting him on the spot. The point
Okay,
is that
I
guys
guess what
do
I'm
that
trying
too.
to say is guys put in less
Nice
effort into
car.
all those things.
But yet you complain when they
Not-
don't.
not-
But
hold
then
on,
you
wait,
don't
wait,
try
wait.
to you're like, oh, you guys don't put in enough effort. But then you're like, well, look at us. We have to put in this for our hair, our outfits. But then you guys
what
don't.
I'm trying
what
to say is
Ni-
that
nice
girls
car.
spend money as
Girls like nice
well.
cars,
And
nice place.
I'm not even adding the fact that women services and women things are more expensive than men's.
Yep.
So clothes, shoes, all the hair services, everything, all of
pink
that is
tax.
more. Yeah, there's a pink tax. So to say that money is just a guy thing is unfair.
I don't know. I feel like guys.
Because
No.
I
especially
feel like guys
now,
put
because
the
like
bill
for example,
more.
I'm gonna
100%.
say like if I was in a long distance relationship and
What,
he lived in
what,
Texas,
what,
I would
what,
pay
what,
for
what percentage of things would you pay for?
like for example, if I'm going to Texas, I
Yep.
would pay for my plane ticket.
Okay, but everything there
Huh?
is on
Like
him.
if we
Yes?
go on dates or whatever,
On
but
him,
like let's
yes?
say the hotel, that's on me unless we talk
Nah,
otherwise.
the guy's always
right?
gonna.
The expectations for the
The guy
guy.
is always.
See, but that's the thing.
I
With long
think
distance, you have to talk those expectations through. Like me, I am not going to just assume that someone is going to buy my plane ticket. I am not assuming someone's just going to buy my hotel because that's assumptions lead to disaster most of the time and leads to being let down. That's why that communication thing is so big. You got to talk all these things out, and especially like in the beginning, like you said, you're just getting to know each other. So like that mutual effort, that naturality of it all. I'm not going to be expecting someone to pay my plane ticket if I just met them yesterday and
I
we're
think
getting to
you're
know
the
each
anomaly,
other.
and I think you're
You
right.
would fly to see someone if you met them yesterday?
I think it's wonderful if more women thought like that.
Yeah, it would
But
be nice.
but the expectation and the general
It's just
rule
the
is
society
guys
that we live
foot
in
the
today.
bill. Period. Another thing that is needed to succeed: integrity. You have to be truthful to your partner, no matter how hard it feels to tell the truth. You just have to. You have to be.
I cheated on you. No, it's fine.
Yeah, I mean,
How could you, Michael?
you have to be honest about
How do
things
you
like
feel
that.
about it? No, it's fine.
Whereas, because otherwise, because you don't have the luxury of like seeing their ticks and how they move around you. You know, like if somebody cheated on you, well, he's been cold recently. You can't really tell that be like online as much as you would in person. So you have to have the rule of radical honesty in order for it to give yourselves a bigger chance to succeed. And then one last thing I'll mention is that, and this is something that I've come to kind of know just recently with when she comes and how I've mentioned that it's two different relationships. It's the fact that you have to have a sense of wonder when it comes to your partner. So when you see them again after a long distance, you have to kind of treat them like you haven't seen them, like there's someone you're excited to see, and obviously that's true, but you have to, because you're gonna go through some issues at long distance that you're not gonna have to face head on in person.
Like which ones?
So neglect, you weren't there, or you did something like that.
But that happens in person as well.
I understand that, but you dealing with it in person is different than dealing with it over the phone. You
Okay.
can hang up on someone and be like, I need my distance. And then you're like, what are you going to do about it? You can't do anything. You can't leave
Well,
the
you
room.
shouldn't be hanging
if
up on
you're-
anybody.
I don't think you
especially
need
in a
permission.
relationship.
I don't think you need permission for space, but fair.
No, but you need to communicate that you need space. And like just like in a respectful conversation, you'd be like, I need to exit this conversation now
Like I said,
because it's respect.
I think you need a sense of wonder to kind of see your partner in a new light and treat them differently. You know, like they're not just a person on the phone. They're somebody who's there with you, and kind of go from there. So,
Yeah.
Esmeralda, would you lead us out in prayer, please?
Yeah. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for bringing us here and allowing us to have this conversation on the different benefits and drawbacks of long distance relationship. Lord, I praise you for all the different technological advances and things that have made it easier through time. And I pray that as more of us realize it's going to be a reality of our day, I pray that you show us how to effectively have a long distance relationship in a godly manner. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.